For joining us today for the fall update for the Northern Bus Garage reconstruction project. My name is Donovan Robbs. I'll be facilitating the Q&A portion of the project. Next slide, please. So as always, so that we can get through the slides and the agenda that we ask you all to continue to request to speak by type your name in the chat. Feel free to type your question directly into the chat if you need, or use the raise hand feature. For us, what we would like to do is if you type your question in the chat, it will put you in the queue. We'll make sure that at the end of each section where there's a Q&A prompt, we will try to answer all the questions for that section. And then we'll have questions at the end of the presentation as well. At any event, we ask that you please refrain from any threatening or obscene comments, as that will get removed from next time. Again, to raise your hand, there's a feature at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you click reactions, you'll see raise hand. That will let us know in the queue where you are, and we will give you an opportunity to ask questions. Again, I encourage you to write your questions directly in the chat as they come. Next. So at this time, just want to kind of cover the agenda. We'll do introductions. We'll have overview and updates around project events. Then we'll have environmental management update, an update regarding art and transit. And we'll conclude with what to expect for the remainder of 2022. Next slide. So at this time, let me introduce the team. Next. Regrettably, because of a scheduling conflict, Diana Levy is unable to be here with us tonight. Cherie Marino will cover a portion around activities. Phil Sheridan, Clark Construction Program Project Lead, is President Jim Ash, who's the environmental coordinator, and Laurent who is the art and transit program manager, will be the presenters for it. And with that, next slide, I'll turn it over to Cherie Marino for project events. Good evening.
Thank you, Donzel. Good evening. Next slide, please. So we wanted to provide an update. I think most of you probably know that in July, we welcomed a new general manager to Metro, Randy Clark. And within his first week of starting with Metro, one of the very first things he did was visit Northern Bus Garage to get to know the project team, to get to know the community, and to further emphasize that this project is important to Metro, and we recognize how important it is to the community. And we are definitely looking forward to ongoing partnership and communications throughout the length of this project. Next slide, please. And I think we'll turn it over to Phil, and he will give you some more detailed project updates.
Thank you, Sherry. And if we could go to the next slide. And, we were really excited, speaking on behalf of the Clark members of the project team, we're really excited to have Mr. Clark visit us. We got to see WMATA's one electric bus that's currently in fleet and running routes. And just Randy's passion was palpable in the room. I think everyone was excited about how excited he is about bringing BEB forward and leading the agency as its new leader. So we're excited about that. Since the last meeting, we've remained busy here at the Northern Bus Project team. Our foundation to grade permit, we did note this as in review, it's pending. There's one DOEE sign off. I'll speak to that a little bit deeper. That is holding that up, but it's effectively approved. With DC Water, our large plans are now approved for all of our new water and sewer utilities. We had to update a flow test recently, so some of you may have seen that ongoing a couple of weeks back, just to validate the current pressures had remained unchanged on their network. Our temporary construction trailer permits for water and utility We did receive some comments from DC Water last week. We expect those to be approved shortly once we return the response to their comments. And from our overall construction contract, Clark and Wilmota continue to work diligently to finalize the formal contract modification that will authorize all of the phase 2 construction activities. With PEPCO, we did hold a battery electric bus specific kickoff coordination meeting for the northern bus site on August 5th. We have set a recurring cadence of bi-monthly for this meeting moving forward. And we are working in parallel with Wilmota in finalizing a change order for the design engineering services. And again, there'll be a regular cadence with PEPCO as we understand many things that we know the community are interested in, but we just don't have answers to yet, such as exactly what route will the feeders be taking. We're nearly certain all of the service will be underground. Where is the vaults going to be located, et cetera. So as we can provide to PEPCO with certainty the actual demand, our peak demand, that lets them start to advance their engineering and start to answer some of those many questions. And as those become known, we'll be obviously happy to and share those with the community. So it is something we know you're looking for, and we are working towards that. Next slide, please. Looking ahead for construction in Q3 here in September, literally within a day of 2, we expect to start the first of the enabling activities. This will principally be driven around the removal of all of our underground and above ground storage tanks on the property. We'll be also removing certain other historical maintenance and service equipment. And there are some other regulated wastes that are part of the preconditions of the demolition raise permit that have to be signed off on before we could move to the major demolition activities. Other items happening as we move, finish Q3 at the end of September and move into our fourth quarter of the year, our pre-construction surveys. I will be speaking to that program in more detail. So if you do have questions about those, if you can hold that, there will be a break at the end of this section, and then I will come back to pre-construction surveys. You will start to see the installation of the equipment that is going to be monitoring the work of the impacts to the surrounding area from the standpoint of potential ground movement, groundwater tables, and collecting all the baseline data on utilities, building facades, et cetera. Other parts of the work that will be moving forward in Q4 is the critical resupport of the east face of the historic tower. This is a critical precondition to the larger demolition of the former bus parking bays that fill out the balance of the street level work on the ground floor where buses were previously parked. We are also looking to move forward with the implementation of the long-term construction fencing, our site security systems, the longer-term maintenance of traffic around the perimeter of the site, which we've spoken to in previous meetings, including certain sidewalk closures, the protection of all parking on 14th Street. That remains. We will have the loss of parking on the west side of Arkansas and on Buchanan between 14th and Arkansas. And that's all per the previously approved DDOT MOT plans that have been shared in our, I think we last shared them in the June meeting. Once that fence is up, you will start to see the installation of all the construction field trailers along Arkansas Avenue. They will stretch from the corner of Iowa all the way down to the corner of Buchanan. And there'll be 9 individual trailer structures set up along that area between single wide and double wide trailers. And we'll continue to do other relevant site prep activities in anticipation of our major demolition kicking off early in the new year, 2023. Our next slide, please. Diving in a little bit deeper on the agency collaboration and permitting. As I noted, our DCRA foundation to grade permit has the approval pending tied to a DOEE stormwater approval. The building permit for the main new construction is in process of being uploaded to DCRA's website. All the final PE sealed plans are with our permitting expediter, who is working on moving over 3,000 individual files over to DCRA to start their formal building permit review process. With Washington Gas, the coordination remains ongoing. As we've reported over the last several months, they move nearly as slow as Pepco, but we are making forward progress. We know where our gas service is coming into the property. We know the size of the gas service. We know the pressure. We're down to the detailed coordination of the final meter siting location, and then they will complete their engineering to bring service to the building. As we've reported previously, we expect that ultimately to come from the Georgia Avenue area and likely up Buchanan Street. With DDOT, breaking news, literally several hours ago, we received the formal final MOU from DDOT for the technical support they have to lend with the traffic signal work that is planned on the project, principally at the intersection of Decatur and 14th Street. With DC Water, as I noted earlier in the presentation, our water and sewer plans are fully approved and expect to have our temporary utilities for trailers and site water during construction imminently. Pepco, that ongoing coordination, our incoming main electric service for the new building. We received some comments from Pepco today to finalize what's called a load letter request. So that is in the process of being finalized with them. And with DOE, we have received a verbal approval of our stormwater plans, but they have not been fully processed in the system. And we do have the fully approved erosion sedimentation control plans. And we have completed and are now fully registered in the new U.S. Environmental Protection Agency NPDES site. These are our notices of intent. It's a formal step with the EPA when you start a large construction project. We had been previously registered, and then they changed their system to a new digital system, so there's more accountability and traceability, and we had to transfer and update our previously approved application, so that's all in order. Not on the slide, but we've noted before, our raise permit is in hand. So we have the permits we need to get all the work underway as we continue to get the contract terms finalized with WMATA, and all the permits for the early work that I touched on the last slide are in hand today. Next slide. So one of the things that came up in our small group meeting with the community leaders was a little deeper dive into some of our green energy. There's two major components. There's rooftop solar. We will have 3 zones of solar. For those of you who have been participating in these meetings since the beginning, you know at one point we had a 4th zone. So we have it on all our mechanical penthouses. We have it on the rooftop area of retail, which has a favorable southwest face. And we have it on all of the southern end of our building over the WMATA operations area, which has a great southern exposure. The previously canopy mounted solar on the rooftop was eliminated as part of the value engineering, yet the solar that remains will be generating on the order of 726 kilowatt hours a year. That will reduce the WMATA Northern Bus's demand on the grid, because all of that power will be used within the building. The other area we have is we've been forward looking with WMATA to not only comply with the current jurisdictional requirements under the green building codes for EV charging ratios, but we're prepared for the future EV charging ratios that are anticipated to be implemented in the district. So today we do have 324 rooftop parking spaces. The current regulations that were enforced at the time our job was implemented in the district was a 1-to-12 ratio, or 30 spaces when the building opens. That will be in place. Ultimately, the city is going to move to a 1-to-5 charging ratio. That would add an additional 36 spaces. And we have provided all of the internal infrastructure, all of the conduits, the capacity in our electrical switchgear et cetera, to add on that work with minimal disruption to the facility as the EV vehicle demand for the employees picks up. WMATA will be readily able to build out these additional 36 parking spaces, bringing us to 1 in every 5 being EV ready. So there's a forward-looking, I'll call it future-proofing plan by WMATA to make sure that we have the capacity to support what we all believe will be more and more EV vehicles in our future for personal use. I think next slide is a break to address questions on the project update. And as a reminder, following this, I will come back and speak more specifically to the pre-construction survey. So if you have any questions on that, if those could be held.
Thank you. I think we have at least 3 questions. The first is from Mr. Tyler. What is the traffic signal plan for 14th and Decatur as well as Decatur?
Yeah, from the standpoint of 14th and Decatur, the traffic signal upgrades will be done in 2 phases. There will be a temporary phase where we have to reposition some of the elements to accommodate some phases of construction. Then as we get closer to the end of the job, the intersection will be fully reconstructed with all of the latest DDOT specified components with call buttons, the width of sidewalks, the ADA cut ramps, the hold lights, the audible notification for the hearing or visually impaired. So you have both visual and audible cues. So it will be a fully modernized, signalized intersection at the conclusion of the project.
I think Mr. Gupta had a follow-up to that. So we can have some come off
Yeah, yes. Thank you, Donzel, and good evening to everyone. What I was more interested in is in knowing during the course of construction over the next 3-4 years, however long it is, will there be any changes in the signaling at 14th and Decatur or 14th and Buchanan in order to accommodate this construction? I know what the plan is after you're done.
Okay.
Right now, I'm more concerned about if there's anything that the community needs to know relative to the longest phase of this, which is going to be the actual construction.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, Mr. Gupta. There is no planned changes to accommodate any specific traffic with the construction associated with the traffic signal cadence at either 14th in Buchanan or 14th in Decatur. You know, we like DDOT will assess that, and if there is congestion or challenges in the neighborhood, then we would obviously work with the DDOT traffic signal department to determine if any changes are necessary, but none are currently anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
Very good, sir.
We also have a question from Russ Park. I didn't and still don't see that the WMATA project website had in advance posted about this with this date, time, how to register, etc. That will limit attendance to only people already signed up to be notified. Was that an oversight for this meeting that can be fixed with an early announcement for the next quarter? Yes, so we will notify, we will make sure that that is updated on the website once the date is confirmed for the meeting. The next question is from Cecilia Waldak. Will the EV charging spaces on the roof be available to neighbors for charging cars?
No, ma'am. The WMATA facility is a secure access control to all of the rooftop parking is dedicated to WMATA employees, and the employees of the retail street front. There's 20 spaces allocated for the employees of the retail spaces. Those would be the only people with access to that charging, because it's inside of or on top of the secure facility.
Here we have a question, another question from Mr. Gupta. Will removal of underground mechanical and service equipment be monitored, and is the plan to get rid of it?
Yes and yes. We've already actually had a pre-construction meeting with DEOE staff on site last week. So they're fully appraised of the plan and will regularly monitor the activity as part of the permit conditions with DEOE. We also have a pending meeting with the fire marshal's office, who also has a hand in the observation on behalf of the district to make sure USTs are appropriately handled. And the intention of the project is to remove 100% of man-made introduced infrastructure that's presently in the ground, whether it's a pipe, concrete, pile, or whatever, that is not part of the historic fabric to remain prior to initiating the new construction. And I know Jim Ash has some further information relative to DEOE on some other aspects that I won't steal his thunder on, but yeah, it's all coming out and it is all being monitored.
Thank you. And then we have a question from Chris. I apologize, I don't have your last name. I have been following these meetings for years now, but I've never heard of a small group meeting with community meetings. Who is in these meetings? Can you provide their contact information? Chris, we will, those who are chosen for the small group of representatives of organizations, will definitely provide a list if you would inform us where you would like us to provide that. The next question is seeking and obtaining federal, and this is from Russ Clark, is seeking and obtaining federal Inflation Reduction Act funding for solar PV an option that could reverse the P-value, reverse the engineering decision to cut it back?
I would have to defer that question to post-meeting, Russ, to WMATA. I don't know what grant applications they may be pursuing relative to some of those Inflation Reduction Act initiatives that are being initiated by our federal government. So we will take that question, but I can't answer it for you tonight.
I'm going to ask our technical person, we have two more and then we're going to get going, but if we can go back to the EV slide page. And Mr. Perks, if there's a specific question, if you could type it in or raise your hand, I appreciate it.
You went one more forward. One more, I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay, in the interim, and if you could type a specific question, that would be great. But in the interim, is seeking and obtaining federal, I'm sorry, I asked that one. Cecilia Waldeck had a question about, can you notify neighbors on your website of removal of potential toxic substances from the site 7 days in advance?
Jim, can I dial a friend and ask you to speak to the policies that you have experienced for various WMATA properties in regards to those advanced notifications?
Yes, Phil. Good evening. Jim Ash, I coordinate environmental activities. I'll brief a little bit later on. In certain cases, there are specific requirements for us to post those kinds of activities. Asbestos comes to mind. Others we'll look at on a case-by-case basis, Ms. Waldeck.
Yeah, and for the existing UST and ASTs, those tanks were purged by WMATA as part of the wind down of the facility prior to it closing. And they've been since surveyed again. So the major bulk regulated chemicals, whether it was diesel or, waste oil, et cetera, those have all been previously removed from the site. We have substantively empty tanks beyond the sludge that you can't pump out.
Okay, and I think Mr. Perkins' question was, can you elaborate on the EV charging for buses? Once the facility is built, can you say if the facility will be 100% electric?
The bus facility right now will be built and fitted out for 100% electric buses. WMATA may not own enough buses to fill every parking spot with an electric bus on opening day, but every space will have the capacity to charge a bus. And I know from Randy Clark's impassioned meeting with the team, we know it's a top priority for him to find a way to make sure every spot has an electric bus as soon as possible.
There was another question, why wasn't this meeting widely advertised? Why no door-to-door contact or flyers with the neighborhood? Once again, your so-called community participation efforts are tokens so you can ram what you want down our throats. I'm a data scientist and former consultant at a leading firm. I have seen these methods for quashing participation. As part of the engagement lead, Ms. Tompkins, we do advertise, and we would be happy to reach out to determine how we can improve that process. This will be the last question, then we'll get to the next set of questions section. We will make sure we don't miss any other questions. Can an overview of the SWM plan be shared at the next meeting?
Stormwater management, yes, we can certainly do that. I can tell you briefly, the principal feature of our stormwater management, because of the zero lot line site, is a huge underground cistern within the building footprint that will capture, store, and treat. It's a big sand filter. If I recall correctly, it's on the order of in excess of 250,000 gallon capacity cistern where we capture that stormwater. We have other BMPs associated with tree wells, et cetera. But yes, Russ, we'll take that as an action item to sharing further detail at the December quarterly meeting.
All right, thank you, Phil. And again, we are tracking all the questions. There are a few more, but we want to get through the next section and then we can pick it back. Josh, if you can go back to the correct slide and then the next.
Okay, and this is me again for the pre-construction survey update. Next slide, please. So the pre-construction survey, where we're at is the certified mailings. We're currently vetting the district tax bases to confirm we have the present owner of each of the subject properties that is eligible for a survey. The certified mail with a letter that provides information on how to actually register with our third-party engineering firm to have your survey completed. I hope to see the mailings. The first of the mailings should be going out by the end of the week. There will be multiple dates and times to schedule your survey available. We are going to have the first block of times over a 3-week period. That will be from September 26th through October 14th. We will attempt to conduct surveys on Mondays to Friday, and the 3 windows will be 7 to 10 to try and catch folks before they have to leave for work, perhaps. There'll be a midday one, 10 to 2. That may best accommodate many of our business neighbors across the street on 14th Street. And we'll have another window of 2 to 6 p.m. To catch people on the back end of their workday. On a case-by-case basis, if we have to make further accommodations for someone, our engineers will work with them. The certified mail will initially go out to the registered property owner that's on file with the district tax office. If that is returned to us, we will attempt to make a direct mailing to the street address again by certified mail. And last resort, if we can't get a piece of mail delivered, we will knock on a door. The property owner will receive a copy of the completed pre-construction survey. As previously described, the program only covers those properties within 200 feet of the Northern Bus Project site. And that survey limit for the program has been informed by DCRA policies, and more specifically, our federal transit guidelines and the specific commitment made by WMATA as part of our NEPA approval to reach beyond the minimum guidelines established by FTA, which my analysis reflected, Jim, if I recall correctly, a boundary of about 40 feet. and WMATA voluntarily committed to stand behind a commitment to go to the 200 feet. So those are where we're at. The next slide, please. This slide has been previously shared in the June meeting. The link on how to find it is there, but the gray shading around our property is the large blue pentagon in the middle. And if your property on this tax map falls in the shading, the gray shading, you will be receiving, or the owner of that property will be receiving, an invitation to participate in the pre-construction survey. As we have shared previously, we strongly encourage you to do so. This is the mechanism that will provide the fastest possible means to resolve a potential claim for damage should something occur. So it's in your best interest, and frankly, it is in the project's best interest as well to us to baseline everything so we know what is out there today, so that we can expeditiously manage any claim should one occur in the future. But again, the links are there, and I think Emma might even be adding something to the chat to reinforce to people. Again, this letter will be coming out. It will be mailed from Clark, certified mail. The engineering firm that is providing the work is Testing and Evaluation Research International. It's TER. They also do business under the name of CED Technologies. So the individual engineer may either have identification under the banner of TER or CED, but they are one and the same. And that would be the information that you would want to check from the individual when they arrive at your house. Again, this is all spelt out in the letter. We're hoping that people can reply back to us by October 7th with their preferred date, which is partway through the window. So we do want to get everyone in and done. And if needed, we will extend the survey window later into October as needed to accommodate people's schedules to get this done. And I think this is ready for another break to answer any further questions on pre-construction survey. Next slide. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. So I want to circle back to, I know we, at least one question we did not get to in the last section of program security and confidence. It was a two-part question. What is your level of minority participation at the decision-making level? And then the second part is, are environmental hazards evenly distributed among DC's white and minority neighborhoods? The second part, I know, Jim, I'm going to ask you to respond to that. And we're going to check on the first part. That may, Ms. Tompkins, you may need to get back in the person, project lead, Diana, is not present today, but we will follow up on that part. Can't get an answer. Jim?
Yes. The review of risks and hazards is presented in the environmental justice analysis that is part of the documented categorical exclusion. That document looked at not only the long-term effects of the bus garage once it's reconstructed and reopened, but also the associated construction impacts. And I would refer the questioner to that document for answers on that. Beyond what's presented there, we will be following all appropriate rules and regulations that are promulgated by DOE and the federal government for management, for identification and management, and ultimate disposal of hazardous materials from the site. So that's my response, Donzel.
Thank you.
And Donzel, could you repeat the first part of that question?
Yeah. What is your level of minority participation at the decision-making level?
Okay. So what I can say on behalf of Clark is we do have a diverse workforce at all levels within the project. Very diverse from the standpoint of male, female, and we do have minorities as well within at management levels and engineering level. And as our workforce grows, we will continue to see that throughout the project. And I know on the WMATA PM/CM team, there is a high level of diversity in some of the most senior roles associated with the project team, but I will let others from WMATA speak more specifically on behalf of their team and their future steps. I can speak to the construction team is that we are look to be on track to achieve the project's stated goal of 20% of the construction work will be performed by our small business partners. So we're very happy to achieve that level of participation and hit the goal, the lofty goal that the WMATA team set for us at the beginning of this construction phase procurement process. Jim, I don't know if it's yourself or perhaps Shari that may speak more specifically to the minority participation within the WMATA management team.
I think we'll leave it there and provide a follow-up response, Phil.
Very good, sir.
The next question is, are property owners required to accept and agree to the process for the survey prior to the survey being done?
If the questioner could elaborate a little further, I'll again explain what the survey consists of. Is a comprehensive set of photographs of both the exterior and the interior of the house and annotations on any defects in the existing condition that are found. So the report will typically consist of, there'll be a single individual, in rare instances, perhaps two, participating in a survey of particular property, and that might be tied to the available window to get, we may have someone inside and someone outside if the homeowner only has a limited window to get the survey completed. And the bulk of the survey consists of the photographic documentation of the findings. So beyond that, from a process standpoint, I'm not clear what the question is. But
Yeah, so we've asked the person asked question
Yeah.
to come off mute. So if you
Yes. Yes. Phil, for clarity, this has always been a concern for me as a property owner because generally in these cases, and I know it's been this way with claims that I have filed with WMATA, in many instances, they want the property owner to get back to them with at least 3 estimates before the process can move forward. Besides that being time consuming, I have always been concerned that anyone involved in risk management is always going to go for the lower price when that lower price may not get us the quality of work that we anticipate in order to make us whole. So I'm more concerned about that, particularly those of us on the commercial side, where we may already have people that we work with, that we trust. In fact, we may even have accounts with some of these people. So I'm just curious to know a little bit more details about how this process is going to work, for those of us who are going to be affected.
So, Mr. Uka, let me just make sure I understand what you're asking. So it sounds like you're asking is, will the property owners have to agree to a claim adjustment process or a claim process in order to get the survey? Is that accurate?
Yes.
okay.
Thank you for that. That's a good way to ask the question. Yes.
The answer is no, there are no preconditions to opting into the survey. As I've shared previously, it is a mechanism, should a survey be completed on a property prior to the start, that will only expedite the resolution of a claims process. Should a claim be made, then a representative and adjuster for Clarkson Shore will come out, survey the property, and they will provide a detailed written offer to the homeowner for the cost of repairs. In the event the homeowner finds that offer to be fair and reasonable, you sign an agreement, you get a check, and you can move forward. You can keep the check, or you can institute the repairs, whatever the case may be, whatever that person personally chooses to do. The only time the property owner would be challenged to get independent estimates would be if you found the initial settlement offer from the adjuster to be inadequate. And again, it's a detailed estimate, so you'll get it. And you know, they obviously pull from a broad inventory of historical cost, et cetera. But there are no preconditions, Mr. Gupta, on that. And you know, going through a previous large past project in the district, we had 8 claims. 6 of the 8 were under $10,000. Only one of the 2 larger ones, which was still under $100,000, was contested, and ultimately it was settled very close to the adjuster's offer after that homeowner got independent estimates. So, you know, we hope, our goal is that there's no claims, but we also understand the reality. It's a large project. There are people who express concerns, and we bring the adjuster in. Hopefully that helps you better understand. I do see your note now. You're satisfied. Good.
And we have a raised hand, and then we'll move on from Audrey Lawrence.
Hi, quick question. If property owners choose not to sign or agree to the survey or participate, what happens if there is damage found at a later date?
It's no different than any other claim. An adjuster would be sent out. They would make an assessment and determination of that they believe the damage is contemporaneous, recent, current, and they would make a settlement offer. If they felt that the reported damage was long-standing, it's been there, the cracks have been in the plaster for a long time. I mean, there's things they can do to assess that, and then they would provide their reasoning in the settlement. But it is absolutely, again, not a precondition to file a claim either. So hopefully, Audrey, that helps answer your concern.
Well, it does in a way.
Okay.
Because is there some kind of district law that says that we have to at least agree to an inspection ahead of time, or that doesn't apply in this case?
There is no district law. In the district, the only properties, the specific regulations under DCRA are the only properties that the entity building must offer a survey to are those that share a property line. Where we fill the entire block out to curb on all sides, we have no properties that meet that threshold.
Good enough. Perfect. Thank you.
Very good, ma'am. Donzel, I think at this time it's Jim's turn.
It is. Next slide. Jim has to talk about the environmental management update.
All right, Donzel, slide, please. Good evening. All right. Since our last visit, we've met and briefed the Department of Energy and the Environment on 2 separate occasions about the contamination that's been identified at the Northern Bus Garage site. The first day was to look at petroleum-related contamination, and the second day, June 3rd, was to talk about non-petroleum-related contamination that's been identified at the site. Based on that meeting, we were given some additional directions by DOEE. The first is they wanted to see some additional investigation of the petroleum contamination located in the vicinity of Arkansas and Iowa avenues. And they wanted to see some additional investigation of the chlorinated solvents that are found on the southern portion of the garage site. We submitted a plan to do that additional investigation in July of this year. The Clark Company is now in the process of obtaining the permits necessary to do that additional investigation. The second thing that DOEE asked us to do was to submit a remediation plan to them. That plan was submitted in August of this year, August of 2020. Slide, please. The plan was approved on August 31st, 2022, and the plan includes the following 6 elements. And the first is the removal of underground storage structures, storage vessels, sand filters, and other related items that might have residual contamination. The second task is to excavate petroleum impacted soil, remove that from site and dispose of it appropriately. We have an area that we have identified as being contaminated, and we will start our excavation by removing petroleum contaminated soil in that area. Additionally, if we find other areas of impact, once we remove the concrete from the foundation, we will remove that petroleum contaminated soil as well. And this remediation levels will be down to tier 1 levels. The third task we're going to do is if there is any free petroleum product present on site, and there was some identified during our last investigation, that will be removed from the groundwater table. That will be segregated and sent to an off-site disposal facility for treatment and ultimate disposal. Our fourth task is to remove any dense, non-aqueous phase liquids from the groundwater column and segregate them and then send them to a treatment facility. Free petroleum product tends to float on top of groundwater. Heavy or chlorinated solvents, which if they are present, we haven't identified any yet, but if they are present, they will sink to the bottom of the groundwater column. But if we do identify any free product, chlorinated solvents, we will remove that material and send that off-site for disposal. Next, as we're rebuilding the new bus garage, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to put in a vapor management system below the concrete floor. The idea here is that if for whatever reason some additional petroleum contamination is identified in a vapor phase, we will already have a collection system in place to remove any air that contains petroleum vapors. If that system is connected, what we'll do is we'll put together an air stripping and treatment system that will clean the air before it is discharged back to the atmosphere. This work would be coordinated with DOEE. Finally, we'll install a series of sentinel wells that are located down gradient of the property with the goal of trying to detect any petroleum contamination or other contamination that may originate on site. If contamination is identified in those sentinel wells, then we would take appropriate measures to remediate any appropriate contamination. So that's kind of an idea of what we're looking at. The plan was approved on August 31st, and we're moving forward with it. So I believe that concludes my presentation, and I will pause for questions. Donzel?
Thank you, Jim. Can you explain what it means to take a sediment site to tier 1?
Say that again, please.
Can you explain what it means to take the site to tier 1?
Thank you. Yes. DOEE has established, for petroleum contamination, DOEE has established various remediation levels, and the tier 1 levels are the ones that we've been directed to remediate the site to. I can provide specific levels at a follow-on investigation, Donzel. I don't have those numbers at hand, but they essentially set the remediation levels for what we have to do for the site.
And is that possible? Is that something that can be shared, like what that represents at a later time?
Sure, absolutely. There's no reason not to. I just don't have the numbers at hand because understand that we're talking several different contaminants, total petroleum hydrocarbons, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and other petroleum-related contaminants. So we'll have to get those numbers and share them with the group.
Okay, and I guess, and I think you answered it. I apologize if you did. I know Cecilia had asked before about the removal of potential toxic substances. Can you talk about how will the community be notified about that? I know she had asked if it could be done 7 days in advance. Just so people can prevent, in her words, their children from walking past the site while that's happening.
So for particularly asbestos, where there are some posting and notification requirements. For the other contaminants, I don't believe that there are any specific requirements. We'd have to go back and look and see what we can do about crafting a plan to provide additional information to the community.
Right, and I know I think the final question is, I know you kind of talked about aqueous substances, chlorinated solid substances that sink to the bottom. How is that removed from the site? You kind of talk about how that would, whether it be through tank trucks or enclosed, contaminated containers.
Sure. So typically what we'll do, if we find free product either floating on top of the groundwater or that materials that have sunk to the bottom of the groundwater column, we'll install pumps in those areas. We will pump those fluids out into a storage tank that's maintained on site. When the tank gets to a certain point, it will be placed in tanker trucks and removed to an off-site location. It will be in certain cases we'll have to do placards, and we'll have to maintain appropriate permitting with DOEE. It will be sent to a facility that's licensed to manage the particular kind of waste that we're talking about. We have a number of different pieces of paperwork requirements that we have to follow, and Phil's group will be very involved in that.
And it was a clarified question. I think it was more specific to the tier 1 statement that you made. Can you kind of differentiate between tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? Kind of get context of what that means.
I'm not prepared to do that this evening, Donzel.
Okay, but will we be able to at a late kind of provide like a doc what that means or what that represents? Because you did say you were pretty familiar with it. Okay, thank you so much. All right, I think we're ready to move on to the next slide, and I believe that is Laurent and Art and Transit. Good evening, Laurent.
Thank you, Denzel. Good evening, everybody. Oh, good evening, sorry, everybody. Quick update regarding Art in Transit. Please, next slide. Next slide.
Next slide.
Thank you. So just the quick update regarding the temporary banners at the site. We are currently working with a printer and a project team to ensure that to produce a few sample banners that will be installed along 14th Street to coincide with the DC-wide events called Art All Night, which takes place on September 23rd and 24th. We are also coordinating with the project team to produce and install the remaining banners during the fall of 2022. So just I want to emphasize that the banner that will be installed by the end of the month in September will only be a few samples. There will be about 5 or 6 banners. They will just give you a little taste of what is to come, and that will be installed during the fall to coincide with the beginning of the construction project. Thank you.
All right, and I believe that's our last section. With any questions before we talk about the remainder of 2022? That we can go to the next slide. So what to expect for the remainder of the year? Next slide. As you walk in, okay, Audrey, I'm going to pause because after this is just a thank you, and I know you were trying to get your hand up before the next question. So I'm going to ask you to unmute and ask your question.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Did you say that I could talk? Am I?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Quick question. Is there any reason why these meetings have to stay remote or virtual? And it's a short meeting. It's just an hour. I feel that we cover these topics so quickly. We just skim the surface as opposed to a live meeting where we would have time to really digest and ask questions. And maybe get a larger turnout. Sometimes people find these meetings a little difficult. Is there an intention to go back to live meetings at any point?
Yeah, as indicated by the WMATA team, Sheree and Aaron specifically, they are looking at exploring a hybrid virtual in-person meeting for December. It will be the next quarter.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then there was a question, has noise pollution and air quality issues been taken into account with the construction of the facility and remediation of the park, removal of hazardous waste? Jim, I see you come off mute.
Yeah, I have come off mute. I'm on camera, Donzel. I'm short answer is I think yes, but part of it is I don't understand the question. So it may perhaps the questioner could offer a little bit more insight. We've taken noise pollution and air quality issues into effect as we've looked at it at the reconstruction of the bus garage. But I think the questioner is looking at something a little bit different. And I'm not sure I completely understand that. So I'd ask for a little bit more insight on that before I provide a response.
And so if Angeli could come off mute, I apologize, I'm gonna find or raise your hand so I can find back. I say if you raise your hand before I get to provide greater clarity, I don't see.
Donzel, let me offer a response, and if this doesn't get to the question, then perhaps the questioner could help clarify it. First off, yes, noise pollution and air quality issues have been taken into account. We did do a noise assessment, and that's available for inspection online in the documented categorical exclusion. For reconstruction of the bus garage, we're putting in a substantial air filtration system that will turn the air over 4 times per hour, that the air will be filtered through a series of air filters that will remove particulates from the air before it's exhausted to the atmosphere. In terms of remediation of the property itself, we are working with DOE to follow DOE's regulations and guidelines as we do the remediation of the site. If we have treatment systems on site, which right now we're not expecting to have treatment systems on site, but if we do, they will have to be permitted by DOE, because we won't be able to release either the water or the air without the appropriate permits.
Thank you. There was another question from Bob Vega. When hazardous and/or toxic substances are discovered, will the community be advised as to their human impact on health, especially long term?
We are working with DOE. The substances do require appropriate management, and we're working to follow DOE's regulations as we do the remediation and ultimately remove the contaminated materials from the site. The 2 basic categories, actually, I started to say 2, but there are actually 3 different contaminants that we are really focusing on. The first are petroleum hydrocarbons associated with the underground storage tanks. There is some detections of arsenic that has been detected in the soil. And finally, there's been chlorinated solvents that are probably a remnant of an old garage facility that was located in the southern part of the site. We'll start with that for the question. If the questioner's got looking for additional information, I'd be glad to offer it.
Thanks. So, returning to the schedule for the remainder of the year, As indicated in today's session, environmental remediation, site mobilization is beginning, as well as pre-construction surveys, which will enable work will be through September. Our expectation that the full construction notice to proceed will also happen by September. As we enter into the fourth quarter or quarter one of 2023, demolition will start, and then structural steel assembly, acceptance testing, and then project completion date, expected completion date presently is 2027. So with that, next slide. As we indicated, our next meeting we expect to have in December. The winter quarterly meeting will happen December 2022. Our goal is to work to see if we can have a hybrid meeting at that time. Updates are posted on the Northern Bus Garage website, which is listed here. And we can make sure that gets into the chat. Email updates are sent from the website page. Just MCAP _ Northern Bus MBG _ reconstruction _ project. Also, the project is also next slide. I think we have a few questions. We answered that one. I think we was Mr. Mike Gold actually had a state. Has a question? Has there been significant decrease in the level of pollution in the area since the garage has been put in? Or if any tracking it and has it been reduction?
I'm not aware of any monitoring that's been done to be able to answer that question conclusively, Gonzo.
With that, I don't see any other questions. So we thank you all for attending. And again, there are some outstanding things that we need to follow up on. And we will make sure that we do that. Next slide. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Donzel, one quick thing. I saw our last comment. Can you just refresh to the attendees the follow-up process on the open questions that weren't addressed tonight? It's pretty standard, but some people may be new to us.
So all of our questions are posted to the Northern Bus Garage website, and we answer them. And additionally, several individuals that we have outstanding questions with my colleague Emma Lipsky has reached out so that we can directly respond and follow up to get clarification. So we definitely list our questions there. We'll post them, and we also track them in our quarterly presentation. So we track all of our questions, we list them on the website, and we follow up in our presentation. Thank you. Thank you all, and good night.